So I came to the understanding of how these incels have been basically manifested. And I kind of stumbled upon this by kind of like listening to basically a Chinese foreign national incel, and he's a pretty smart guy. Um I think he goes to school in Canada. You probably saw some of his videos, maybe. I don't know. But basically, this incel epidemic, right? Where you have mainly a lot of white men and even Asian men behaving in a manner of basically being an incel. I'm not gonna go into necessarily femcels. I mean, it might be something related to this, but I'll just speak on the incel vantage point because I can definitely point out, and I don't even really think this is gonna be a long video, but because basically it's real simple how these incels were created or manifested, and it basically goes back to when there weren't that many. I mean, it was always probably quote unquote incels. Maybe they were like the, bifocal wearing nerds with the pocket protectors, okay, back in the, 60s and 50s or whatever. Like those men always existed, but it wasn't so widespread as it is now because it's basically due to just basically women being able to choose their own mates. I always go back to this, but all of the everything leads to biology, science and biology. And that's the basis of the universe. Science, mathematics, biology. You can even include biology in science, right? So basically, when these women started to choose their own mates, like basically widespread, let's just say the 60s, 60s, definitely 70s, and pretty much wholeheartedly the 80s. So before, women had to basically kind of like get the approval from their father for their boyfriend. That was just kind of the tradition. And it was a certain type of guy that the father would approve of. Usually he was masculine, kind of hardworking, responsible. He had a job. He had some type of goals. He could communicate with the dead. That man was chosen as, okay, you can date my daughter, or these are the rules to date my daughter, or whatever. With all of that kind of pretty much being thrown out of the window, uh basically it created a couple things. It created different powder kegs. Now I'll even explain why the black community, or let's just say black men, are not necessarily incels like that. Like, it is black incels, but it's not as many as white male incels or even Asians. I'll try to get back to that. But basically, because women primarily started to choose their own mates, they basically were able to kind of like, basically America basically turned into a big freak off. Okay, so the women would go to college, okay, in the 70s, 80s, and they would just get, their pussy would just get pulverized. Alpha, lambda, beta, chapter. They got a panty party where women have to raffle off their panties, and whoever gets the panties, they gotta, sleep with one of the fraternity brothers. I mean, all of that type of stuff was going on and is still going on now. And those things kind of affected a certain type of woman where she was, and then you merge into the widespread women being able to work where kind of pretty much wherever they wanted to work. You had a situation where now women are able to make their own money and they're choosing their own mates, and then they're also competing with men. They got these jobs and they have to actually compete with other men. So in the concept of competing with other men and then paying your own bills and all of that thing, women women by nature had to be more masculine. So also by them competing with men, they kind of somewhat turn into men in a sense of they started to try to replicate the lifestyle of a man in a sense of men can sleep with whoever they want to. They can have as much sex as they want to, right? Well, women, that's what women started to do. Women started to freely explore their sexual wiles. A lot of the women, especially among basically in the black community or whatever, or amongst blacks or whatever, basically that's the prerequisite for a lot of black women. They You have to please a black woman sexually for you to even be in a relationship with her or whatever you want to do with her. Sex is a part of that formula that she needs as a prerequisite in order for anything to have any relationships in the future with her. And just how that is. It's like if you have to be a freak off champion to basically have a woman claim you, or a black woman claim you for sure. And you could even say that's kind of why black women are kind of reluctant to kind of interracially get into relationships with other non-black men, because they do like having sex with black men. They do have a strong desire, and the reputation, and all of that type of stuff. They do like that. But um the thing is that it's not to say that, white women and has Hispanic women didn't, in their choosing, basically choose um freak off champions. You had to, if your sex was the best and great, you could basically be my mate for life. Like, I want you. The women started to have lustful, like on my Broke Geniuses Facebook page, I wrote a little short snippet. I mean, not a snippet, but a little short, like kind of like post about the difference between love and lust. And is not necessarily lust, and lust is not love. Okay, but they're intertwined, kind of like the Marines and the Navy. They're intertwined, but they're not the same. Okay, so with love, it's a genuine emotional feeling. You could base it off of beauty and also desire, but it's just that, right? Lust is some type of just carnal drive and fire and passion that you feel towards, usually the opposite sex, right? And from that you can have it instantly. It's not nothing that it's basically natural. It's your natural urge to procreate, to have sex, right? And it's like that pretty much that does intertwine with love because you kind of need that to to love, for love to kind of, fester, right? That's why you have, the whole thing, older couples, we gotta, we do XYZ to keep the, fire going and the passion going in our relationship. It's where that comes in. You do need a flare of lust intertwined with love because, okay, you're the woman that you do have, that you love her, y'all are a love couple, you still want to have sex with your wife or your woman or whatever. You trying to still, you like having sex with her as well, like, right? It's not just just based off of lust, but you have a love for her, and you also, to a certain extent, lust for her. um because lustful urges is just something that is a sexual drive. It's a sexual drive. uh Now, that being said, I mean, I talk more about it on my Facebook page, but the thing is that when it comes down to it, a lot of women, they don't really they really don't know how to control. And again, I always mention Alexis K. Tyler because she talks about basically the power that men have, with our penis. A lot of women, they learn how to respect that power over their, when they get older. That's why a woman, okay, every time, cause see, I know this because I have a I have a higher form of sexual mastery than probably most men. I mean, it is a thing, it is a concept, a theory. Sex is very, very deep. Okay. It's not just porn or some shit like that. It's very, very it's very in depth. I mean, I'm not gonna go too much into it, but I'm just saying, when it comes down to it, a lot of women, they learn over, when they get older, that they learn that about that power. And this is why when I hear women say, I'm celibate, I'm primarily, yeah, celibate because they've already had sex, or they're not in a relationship, or they had a bad relationship, and this, that, and the third. A lot of the times what happens was a woman got in a relationship with a man that probably had, let's just say, a high degree of sexual mastery. Basically, i.e., very simply, that man could make that woman come the best she ever had in her life. You know, and from that feeling and that urge, women get addicted. I think that, again, I think that's where the English word, whatever the, you'd have to look in a entomology book, but that word, I think it comes from that, because women strongly get addicted to sex, and the man that they're having sex with. I would say that it would be an argument. I would have to have a panel discussion about, a lot of guys, a lot of, especially black men, they don't want to really talk about sex. They don't really they don't really like to talk about sex like that, believe it or not. Especially like really in depth. That's like very, black men are very shallow when it comes to that. But at the end of the day, the argument would be, do women get more addicted or do men get more addicted? I would have to say that both can be true, but I think that the way that the reaction, like it's just different reactions that men will do when they're addicted to a particular woman, in the difference of what women will do and what women, how deep women can actually be addicted. Because the thing is that one, I'll just say it, I believe that strongly that women get addicted more. And the reason why I think that they definitely get addicted more, because literally I think that's where the fucking word comes from. I mean, it just literally like, and I mean, not to just say that, it's just men have a higher form. I mean, I think God gave us um that, ability to basically deliver, um because basically women are basically in essence taking men's pain. They're basically, basically getting, rotted literally, right? And that's, that's just a power, right? God, men have power tools. And I'm not talking about guns. I'm not talking about actual power tools. Men have power tools. You could, you could explain this to a 7-year-old, right? Like, men have power tools, and basically women, they have material. And with those power tools, you drilling in that material, and um screws and hammers get fixed in the material, and they get stuck. And it's like, it's a situation to where basically men have the power. Men have the sexual power to unleash onto women. And women don't know. They not taught this. They're not taught this by their parents, their aunts. They're not telling them this. And then, yeah, women get disillusioned. That's why, here, what I'm basically describing is literally why women go be celibate themselves. Not virgins themselves, because you do have virgin themselves. I'm saying women that did have sex with men, and then they got really in a bad relationship, and so so on and so forth. This explains that. This also explains the rise of LGBT, because basically these women, they get affected by dealing with men, and they go through that phase where they get tired, and they get, probably they go celibate, and then, maybe they go back to a man, and then they just, fall flat on their face, and then they eventually, or whatever, I guess, get influenced to deal with women. I don't know. But the thing is that this is why all of that happens, is women, the reason why I always mention Alan Roger Curry, and it's not necessarily about him being a dating coach. He actually wasn't a quote unquote just a dating coach. Alan Roger Curry, late great author, and dating coach, Alan Roger Curry, also professor, briefly, right? Like, he was more in depth. If you just looked at him just like a dating coach, you'll be very limited in what his range actually was. Now, the thing is that what he talked about was not necessarily all about quote unquote dating or picking up a woman or whatever. He went into depth of women's sexual nature, a lot of what they do, why they do the things they do. And I never forget one of his live streams where he talked about how basically women become sluts. And I've talked about this on my channel quite a few times in a not too distant past. And it's like a kind of a timeline where maybe a woman goes, she's in high school, she has a boyfriend or two, and she's having a sexual experience at 15, 16, 17 years old, or even 18 years old, and she's she's orgasming, she's enjoying men, she's enjoying um different men's penises inside her, and she each man that she gets with, she's getting a higher and higher orgasm. And by the time women probably go to college, and then they go into all of these frat parties and going to different places and spaces, they're hooking up with dudes, and a multitude of dudes. They're, having really, women really have their whole phase. Now, you could even say now women, I hate to say this, but this is what it is. It's kind of sickening, but uh some girls are, or young women are having their whole phase in junior high. I mean, it's just crazy. And I'm talking about, I'm Gen X. Okay. I grew up basically, I went to high school with early millennials and other Gen Xers. Okay. Or baby Gen Xers. And I mean, I never forget when I was in high school. I mean, I didn't have sex until I was like probably my junior year of high school. I remember in the locker room after gym, a couple guys was actually bragging about having sex in seventh grade. And I think one or two of them has a child. They already had a child. And you got to understand, this moment, I was a freshman in high school listening to this. And it was like, wow, like I couldn't, it was like just no big thing. Like, I'm talking seventh grade, eighth grade, and having active sex. Um, I mean that 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 it kind of goes into a certain realm of, by the time these girls or young women go to high school, they've already had a whole phase. And by the time they get done with high school and go to college, they I mean, pretty much are turned out, 10 times over. Like, and okay, they get done with college or not, they're they look at men, they might continue on that type of lifestyle where they're just having different sexual experiences with different men. They might even go be gay or something like that. I mean, they're basically damn near numb to men. Like, you know, men is like no object. Like, it's just, they've had so many men at that time. They've came two ways twice on Sundays, and back again. Like, they just basically kind of like a drug addict that's been turned out, and they don't even, that's why some women, they have like a devil may care attitude about men because they had so many men. It's no big deal. It's like men are literally no big deal, at all. They can get a man, they can damn near get any man they want, and they done already had a whole bunch of men. Yeah, that's why, a lot of I'll have to say, like, if you younger, I don't want to scare you or anything, but a lot of women my age, they act exactly like that. Like women in their 40s, I mean, that's why dudes when they get older, they don't want to date women their age because the women that are their age, I mean, they like actual number of sexual partners, it might be in the 500s or thousands by that age. I mean, they don't have any, like, they probably don't even have any walls left. I mean, I don't know. Like it's just, it gets crazy, when you don't know what you're doing, and it just all starts messed up, and then it ends even more messed up. And it comes from just women just not understanding what they're getting involved with, and then, when they get older and they done got, a couple experiences, got their heart broke a few times or something, that, then they want to go be celibate. And in that course of celibacy, maybe they take a time out to actually learn their body, learn themselves, and maybe even educate themselves on, who men actually are. Maybe stumble upon a couple of Alexis Tyler videos or other videos, and just kind of understand. And I'm not, it is what it is. I'm not being, I some women might argue that women have higher forms of sexual power than men. I mean, you know, I th- it might be some room for argument, but I doubt it. Because I mean, the stuff that I've seen women do, and it kind of goes back to the whole, having a baby for a man. That's an ultimate thing to do, like, to where, you know, when a woman, she wants to have your baby, that, it doesn't get, more intimate and more in depth than that. I mean, like, um the thing is going back to manifesting these incels, all of what I just said, it does play a role. It all is like little pieces to a puzzle, because when these women started to choose their sexual partners to make basically copulate with and make babies, it was most of the time a guy that had some form of higher sexual mastery, basically can make them come the best. And then that was, it's something biological clicked in their head that this is the man that I want to impregnate me. Or to be honest, it really ain't that. Really, to be honest, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. And it goes back to who has higher sexual energy or power. Well, when women are when you are in depth, in deep in penetration with a woman, you could damn near tell her anything that you want done. Like, you could live, and this is like, I'm literally kind of giving away, like, this is like stuff that pimps know, like, I mean, like, if literally women, they don't have control once they're in, um this is why, like, even some women believe men are vampires, because, like, a vampire, he has the ability to control another person, and to a certain degree, I mean, you might have some, it might be some type of, like, extra rest, tinfoil hat conversation about that. Like, but the thing is like, to be honest, in the conversation that I'm having now, that actually to a certain extent is happening when a man is basically um balls deep inside a woman, and she is in intense joy and pain at the same time. A woman doesn't have any control over her body. I mean, um in a sense of she don't have control. And here's the thing, like, if you even have had sex with a woman and she tells you don't do this and don't do that, you should be concerned. To a certain extent, the reason being is women that are able, and this is just, from experience, women that are able to do that, they're already used to having loads and loads of sex. So it's almost to a certain extent like they're just working out, and that means that typically a woman that's able to do that has a high ass body count, and she's damn near she's got numbers like a escort damn near, that work back page. Like, I mean, because it's almost like she's telling you, the cigarette is almost out or some shit. Like she's damn near she's not even lost any control because she's just used to it, like, yeah, like, to a certain extent, for the most part, for a woman that just, if she has met her, let's just say, sexual alpha, like the part of her sexual partner that makes her come the best, right, that she's ever felt in her life, she, basically, she's going to, she don't have any control once that man is inside her. So in essence, if that man wants to cream pie that woman and leave his seed in there, you know she's gonna take it. She might be upset afterwards, depending on the woman, or she might not even, because she wants you more than anything, and she's in lust with you, and she's confusing it with love. Women do this, like, men do it too, but women do it the most. Women do it to the extreme because they don't have any it they don't they confuse women confuse addiction, maybe, with with some type of, like, love interest or whatever. Because, I mean, to a certain extent, like, you got to look at it like a heroin addict. And this is another thing, this is like kind of like what pimps know, like, um like a woman or a man being on heroin, that's the reason why they're hooked on it. That, and they also even get sick when they don't have it. And it's like the feeling of them being on that drug is probably similar to love, how love feels. And because it feels, drugs manipulate the pleasure sensors, or not sensors, but uh what's the word for them? It's like your sensors, but not so much your sensors. It's like I forgot the word of it, but it's like your neurons in your brain. It's like, certain pleasure, like, kind of like sensors in your brain, and that's what drugs do. It manipulates those sensors to basically, in essence, you to feel good so much and all the time. It's tricking your brain to just like I think they're called receptors. Yeah, your receptors. Like when you're triggering those receptors to be want to feel good all the time. You know, your good receptors, like your stimulation to, you know, want to, you know, eat or drink or whatever, like do something pleasurable. um that's what heroin, cocaine, um meth, all of those things manipulate those receptors and want you to feel good all the time. And that's why a junkie, he can't stop. It feels so good to him, he can't stop. He doesn't want to stop. He can't stop. You know, it's almost sounding like fucking, you know, bad boy song from the 90s with Diddy. Can't stop, won't stop. Like you know, um that's what a junkie does, right? That's a dope fiend. He's, you know, in a state of euphoria, you know. And the thing is like when it comes to, you know, women, they confuse themselves off of something that feels good and is addictive, obviously. And they don't, and again, you know, nobody's telling these women like there's no sex education like that, you know. You know, maybe some good sex education teachers or something that is actually being more vocal, because a lot of times, to be honest, women, when you talk to them about certain things that women, you know, have, you know, relationships they've gotten in and why they've gotten in these awkward situations, they don't want to be honest and say how addictive they were to that person. Now some women are, but most women, they're really, you know, especially women that have gotten pregnant, you know, women that even whatever they do, their activities, they do not want to explain, you know, because of just how society is. And you could even probably even go to the Victorian era. Women just didn't really talk about sex like that. You know, they just, you know, didn't, it's just kind of frowned upon, I guess. And then also women are embarrassed. Women get really, really embarrassed. Like, you know, I did a video and I went in on how people don't really understand how much women don't want to actually be embarrassed. You know, I mean, I grew up with, you know, girls, so I mean, I know how they are. Like, I know women probably more than most guys that haven't grew up with sisters or whatever. Like, I mean, basically, women go out their way to not be embarrassed and being quiet. That's why they're so fucking quiet, because they don't even want to be, you know, exposed at all. Like, I mean, but the thing is that they do get addicted by these guys, and you know, they get pregnant, and you know, they might try to take the relationship all the way to marriage if they can. And at the end of the day, the choice of the relationship was based out of basically more lust than love. Okay. Love, it tends to have a longer term relationship. You know, that's why, you know, couples, you know, they get married in high school and or after high school, and then you know, they together for like 40 or 50 years, and they damn near, you know, they die, you know, just apart from each other, you know. You know, that's more kind of love, right? Right? Something that's kind of special, right? Rare, right? And lust relationships don't last that long, if you notice. If you notice, right? You know, it's something that, you know, people can, you can have a conversation about. That'll be a good, you know, for all little relationship talk spaces. It'd be real good. Love versus lust, because there is a difference. in my experience, lustful relationships don't really last that long, and a lot of them are kind of toxic. I would even say, or can be, you know, um, to a certain extent. But the thing is that those relationships were more common in the 70s and definitely 80s and 90s. And, basically by the 2000s, it was commonplace for a woman to just basically have a relationship with a guy that she most likely liked having sex with. And then they had a baby or they got married or whatever. And the relationship, long story short, did not last long. And it ended up to be a situation where the woman was carrying babies and she was divorced from that man, or she was basically a baby mama, single baby mama, right? Or basically a baby mama, right? Um, you let them hit it raw. It didn't. I had to go into that song, but the thing is basically the man was, basically apart. That man was apart from the relationship. Eventually, after the dust settled, the man lived somewhere else. The woman was left raising children, by herself. Okay, and the household was split. So from that, you had a lot of women mommy their boys. Okay, even you saw that video of the woman, she was whipping the shit out of her son, like even doing that, damn near terrifying their sons to death. And then a lot of times, that shit has long-term effects, because that ends up putting a situation where a man could possibly grow up to hate women, or even want to inflict harm on them, or even have some type of strange relationship to where, that's why a lot of black men are really super submissive towards even women. If you really notice it, like we're taught to even, that's why, it's kind of like that's where the whole gynocracy thing, or the, black matriarchy kind of starts. We a lot of black men are terrorized to death by our mothers to, in a way, be in essence, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's their theory of they're doing that to try to um do some black matriarchal gynocracy covert mission, that affects the world. Like, nah, it's just, they trying to deal with some kid or whatever. They, aggressive, and I mean, be a bad kid or something, and then that's their way of dealing with it. But the thing is from all of that, you got a lot of men that they fear women to a certain extent. They care about what women think and say too much. They even give women, passes and all it, because a lot of especially black men. I mean, I'd even say, just in general, but they've been just fucking beat to the point where they just have some type of subservient viewpoint to women, you know. And it's crazy, but the thing is that that's why it's kind of different. It's a different perspective with black men, how they deal with the whole incel thing. But the thing is from all of that mammying and everything, and just kind of being just given some type of feminine only raising of boys, so they don't, they basically grow up to be feminized, and from that they get softer, and then they basically have all of the attributes and aspects of what women are not attracted to. And that's pretty much why why that happened, because basically women started to um choose men that basically they were more in lust with, one, based off of their sexual escapades that they really shouldn't have ever had in theory. But the sexual revolution, the hippie movement, all kinds of other government, CIA shit, and basically, the rise of, I guess you want to say, secularism, right? And yeah, that led to uh women just kind of, not really looking at men as this is my only one and only. Like, when you this is why men really, prefer virgins. Like, really, to be honest, like, Muslims, I don't know about anybody else, but definitely Muslims, they almost have to have, even a lot of foreigners from other certain countries, that's why they have to have a virgin. And I'm not trying to justify this shit at all, and I don't justify it. I look at it just as evil and crazy as you do, and even sick. This is why, like, I think some of those older poor men from other countries like try to get like young, like prepubescent or even post tongue twisted post pubescent teens, and try to marry them as just so they can have a virgin. Um and the thing is because in this, not them, but I'll just say why men in general want virgins is because when you have basically a woman that has only had your sexual power, your own sexual energy, and she enjoys it. I would even say, and I know the women probably ran off with this, and probably even people in general, you already thought like, okay, this will probably help. This is why dudes that don't know how to have sex, or maybe don't even have a big dick or whatever. This is why they want virgins. And I mean, probably, yeah. I would say so. That might have some element to do with it. I don't know, but the thing is that the reason why men should, like, the best thing a man could get is a virgin, is because you really don't have to worry about that with a woman that's a virgin. When you get with a woman that is a virgin in general, like a relationship, and you with the woman that's a virgin, and you enter her for the first time, it's like, basically, it's like damn near having Eve. Like, that's the best way I can probably describe it. It's really extreme. It's right to the point. It's like, probably nothing you ever heard before. But like, that's probably what it's like in a general sense of, like, it is something. It is a big thing. Like, because when a woman only has your stamp, right? It's like she's only experienced you, and you already are her best because she's only had you. And she really only wants you the only one she needs, right? You the best in all of that. you know you're her champion. I mean, but like, as soon as women, like, they go get one stamp, and then they move on and get another stamp, and then they get, 2 stamps and 3 stamps. It's like all of these stamps, it's like you just got all of this stuff going on. You done got stamped here, there, everywhere. Um, you don't really give a shit. Women start to not really give a shit about men. That's one. That's obvious. In order to have a relationship, in order to have anything really, you kind of have to give a shit about it. You gotta kind of really do give a shit about it. Like, if you really, really want to be good, right? And it's like, to a certain extent, this is why a lot of women they really don't value men, because they didn't had a lot of men. And they don't they can't. This is why they try to go through, I think, it's probably even explains the celibacy, which I think is effective, where they go periods and in long periods without having a man, because um they want to like relive being a virgin again to a certain extent, or just kind of controlling their sexual urges. It's a way that they, I think, try to attempt to have some type of control over their sexual urges. And yeah, just kind of stop and just reevaluate this whole thing we call sex, right? And it's like they might even be like, well, I'm not gonna have sex with anyone until I just get married. They can just do that. That's um, I wouldn't say that that's truly celibacy. I think that's like almost like you trying to trick a dude or something, or trap a dude with the opportunity of sex, which is tripped out. But some women that do that, and I think it works. But the thing is that um, from all of those stamps, it's again like you know that's why men would just prefer ideally a virgin, you know. Um, and it's not that many women that are virgins. It's not even women that hasn't had a whole bunch of stamps, So and by the time a man gets definitely like, I know I'm all over the place, but by the time a man gets 40 something, a woman that's in her 40s, I mean, she's damn near probably on a new passport book by the time. I mean, she got more stamps than shoot, a full passport, right? Like, and it's like, yeah, that's why a lot of those women, and they know I'm right. These women listen to me. They know exactly I'm right. They might be smacking their lips because they're like, damn, they don't care about men. They lose interest. It's like you're an old piece of meat that you've already eaten up, and you got scraps on the floor, that's just getting moldy. That's how they look at you. Like, I mean, like you know, um, you're a bunch of rice in a jar. You just one piece of rice amongst billions of other rice in a rice jar. I mean, that's how they look at you, because they done had so many of you, and they can have more if they want. Like, that's how they get when they be living that Sex in the City life and all of that shit. And the thing is that resulted in a lot of women being like sexual, um uh you know I don't know, sexual, having sexual freedom to a certain extent, and maybe trying to have relationships that didn't last that long. Maybe had a long-term marriage that was like 10 or 15 years or something. I mean, but the thing is that at the end of the day, it really was the basis of it was the basis of it, and and it you had kids and you know you go to get divorced and you go to one house and your kids in another, and the mother might be really intertwined with the son and just make some a son husband, and now you basically created an incel. You made a future incel by you mommying this little boy to death, you know, and created a future incel, and then I mean there you go. Like that's what happened. In short, I don't know how many minutes has passed. I know it's probably been an hour at this point, but I mean, yeah, no, it's not been an hour. It's like 50 something minutes. Yeah, that's how that happened. You know, and I mean, I know that's not a conventional. It's not. This is not a scientific approach. It's not some type of data with statistics and statistical narratives and formulas and all. No, this is more philosophical. It's basically from my viewpoints only, you know. It's pretty accurate. I do believe it's pretty accurate because um you can't necessarily. I mean, well, you could just basically look at data and then just be like, okay, well, because we'd have to base this off of, the single mother rate and the divorce rate and the custody um, of women and versus men, the fathers versus the mothers, and you could come up with to the conclusion there. But yeah, like either way, uh, that's how these incels were created. In you've got in this, you could, I mean, well, you have these incels, and then you have the women that they should be with in general that are just they're different women. These women, the women now, because of social media primarily and the internet in general, right? You have women that are, you used to, like I say, I remember when I when I was working at Boston Market, I was uh I was like a junior in high school. Yeah, I was about a junior in high school. And I went in, I was a dishwasher at first. And I walked in the store, was getting ready to go back to wash the dishes to start my shift, and I saw Too Short sitting down, eating some chicken. I mean, he was tearing that damn chicken up. And then it's about 4 men. Some dude like approached me. It was one of his bodyguards. It was about 4 Land Rover trucks out in the parking lot. It was Calumet City, Illinois. This is about 19. It's probably 1996. Um, I mean, I say that to say, uh, I ain't take no. I didn't whip out no cell phone and be like, "Hey, Too Short, can I get a picture, dog?" Like I didn't do that. I wouldn't because I couldn't. It wasn't no fucking internet as far as what we know of today. It was no smartphones where you could whip out your fucking smartphone and take a selfie. That shit didn't exist. So that world, 1996, it was a magazine and TV world. It was an influence. The influencers were, basically paid actors, right? Entertainers. You couldn't, and it wasn't, you know, this world, the world before the internet and social media, people wouldn't exist. For example, definitely Charleston White would not exist. The reason being is the reason Charleston White is able to exist is because of social media. That is how he is able to exist. In a world where there's no social media, nobody would know who Charleston White is because primarily because of control. Where would you hear Charleston White? Because of the control of the media, like basically radio, TV, because that was all the channels you had for communication for anybody to say anything to spread to other people was TV and radio. So because those things were heavily controlled, Charleston White would never even spring forth. You know, wouldn't exist because nobody would know his message would not spread. Nobody would know who this person is because he would only exist in his hometown. He would just be a wino that smoked weed, that used to sell dope and all the other shit he did or whatever. That would just where that would start and end because basically no bum on the street could be famous. Like it just you can't. It wasn't. It didn't work like that. Even like the only people that were exposed was whoever was on a video camera, and most of the people that had video cameras was the news, the news stations, and basically they control what they view, what they put on the TV, and or the news or whatever. Like that was everything was heavily controlled. So you wouldn't have like no dude that's a clown from your hometown that starts gets on some big platform and gets famous. Like it didn't work like that back then. You wouldn't it was so much heavily controlled that it was so gatekeep that like literally no one would be platformed like that. Like you'd have to go through certain channels to be platformed. You have to be a paid actor, um, actress. You'd have to be a model or something, do TV shows or commercials, and you were told what to say, how to say it, and that was it. You wasn't saying anything else. I mean, that's how that world worked. I know I'm going into fucking depth. I'm going into Lake Michigan, but god damn it, like this is a big point. Like these young guys, these incels, or these guys that's striking out with women, their counterparts have basically a supercomputer in their hands, damn near 24/7, with basically a quadra-core or above processor in it, with RAM, circuit boards, a 4K high definition camera if they got a new phone, front, back, uh, with a nano or above Wi-Fi card. I mean, basically, like a supercomputer in their fucking pocket, and then They are connected to their Instagram at the click of a button or the swipe of a face or fingertip or fingerprint match on IG, looking at not just like, like in high school, you only saw the people that you were in your peer group. Those are the people you saw. If you wanted to see them, you'd have to actually see them, be in front of them, or maybe you could call them, on the phone. That was it. Those were who you saw. You didn't go home and see your friends on the fucking TV, on the news, or anywhere. You had to, in order to see them, you had to. I know this makes me sound like a fucking dinosaur that's talking about like maybe back in 1800s or some shit. But like literally, like if you wanted to engage and interact with your friends, you had to wait to the fucking next school day to see these motherfuckers. Like you couldn't just hit a fucking button on this supercomputer on your in your pocket and then actually video talk with them through the fucking phone. The shit didn't exist yet. So the thing is now these women are able to do all of this intergalactic sci-fi shit now, and then also not only can they just interact and see their friends, they can see the whole fucking world. I'm just saying these dudes got it fucking hard. It's hard for me, you know. I mean, like, but I've already had my fun, and the kids that I have, like, I've already had my fun. Right now, these guys, they're trying to come up and they're trying to have some fun. Ain't no fun. These women they got the world in their fucking pocket. They can, like, again, only people I saw was my peer group. My peer group saw their peer group. That was it. If they wanted to interact with anybody, it had to be on the phone with somebody else that they wanted to interact with, or most likely, or go to the mall. Like, that's why fucking the mall was so big of a deal. The mall was literally Facebook and Instagram. You could actually, like, yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad I remember. Like, the mall was the social media. The literally, I'm not making it. I know I'm a dinosaur, but the mall was social media, because the reason why is all you normally saw was your peer group or the people in passing, strange people in the towns or city, whatever. Those are all you saw if you saw them. If you went home, stayed in the house, you'd have to wait to go back, and the people that you normally talk to was your friends, and and 9 times out of 10, your friends went to the same goddamn, like my friends, they went to the same high school I went to. So, like, literally, those are all the people that I interacted with. These women are able to interact with fucking Miley Cyrus on a fucking live stream, on a video fucking conference. They're able to, they're able to interact with all of the rich celebrities, the people, all of the high up people now. So literally, you have there's no peer group. The peer group is like international now because of the fucking invention of social media and the internet and the smartphone and all of this shit. Women believe they're competing with women around the world. They want what the last celebrity that they saw Instagram wants, that she gets from her boyfriend or her husband, etc., etc., etc. I mean, You know, that's what you competed. What these young guys are competing with. You got their peer group is. I mean, you just gotta understand. Like, I went to high school, and it was a couple chicks that they stripped. They secretly became strippers in high school. It was like it was at least one chick for sure, but it might have been more. Now, the reason that they were stripping and probably selling pussy too, whatever, right, in the champagne room, because they got that was how they got a lot of money, right? Like, that's women still do that to this day, right? But women don't have to do that because of OnlyFans. And OnlyFans is like, you know, that's the big thing, right? That's you got women making, $50 million a year doing OnlyFans. You know, you're a woman in high school you're a young woman that's 17, 16 years old, and you already know about OnlyFans. So you gonna lie, and you're gonna have like, just like the young people, are getting Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts, and they're only supposed to do that or sign up if they're a certain age or whatever. They lie about that. They do that for OnlyFans. And some of the high school chicks are doing that, and some of them are making thousands of dollars a month. Oh, man, shit, hundreds of dollars a month, probably even still good. I don't know. They're making money. This is what these young boys are trying to compete with. I mean, like, it's just intergalactic. Like, I mean, we didn't, again, like, it was like competition in high school, but the competition was like from the older dudes. The older dudes used to pay the chicks and get them shim shoes, get their hair done, you know, even had an apartment or whatever that they can go to and be away from their parents. I mean, like, that was the competition. And then you had the high school jocks and the popular guys and the homecoming dudes and the prom kings and all of that shit. And the thing is that was all that you had to compete with. And that was still stiff competition, not to say the least, right? But you competed and you were able to compete, or you maybe weren't able. Okay. That was what you had to deal with. You didn't have to fucking deal with, you know, like I said, the reason why I said Too Short is Too Short. He had to fucking be in the town and go do a show and actually want to actually go to that fucking Boston market for me to be able to see him. I wouldn't know what the fuck he was. He went live and he's at the event. Okay, yeah, now we know where he is. But the thing is that nobody saw Too Short unless he was in concert, he was on TV, and that was it. We heard him on the radio rapping. Like, we didn't see him go live and at his house and you know roll up a cigar or smoke a cigar and talk about his upcoming projects. We have no interaction like that. You know, it wasn't it. A person had to, again, be in front of you, or you might have saw him on TV. That was it. Like, I remember I went to school with some it was a group, it was an R&B group, and they was called Subway. And I never forget, this shit blew my mind. I was a freshman in high school, and I'm seeing these dudes on like Soul Train. They singing a song, and I'm on the bus with them the following Monday going to high school. And these dudes are on, I mean, they are on BT and MTV. I mean, like these they're like a national group, like up and coming group. And it just blew my mind. Like, but that was it just so happened that I went to the high school and they lived in the neighborhood or in the same city and they went to the same high school. That's how that happened. In order I mean, you could literally you name like Drake, uh, uh Rihanna, um Beyonce, you could literally see them live on video at their home in the studio. I mean, like you can interact with them. You can you can send them a fucking message to see if they can, give you their number, to actually talk. I mean, like it's unheard of. I mean, like it's I mean, literally you could say there's no 6 degrees of separation. But the whole point is, this is what these young guys have to compete with. They have to compete with the attention and the expectations of a delusional woman that is addicted to social media and is trying to she wants what other women on social media has, which is the women of the world. And she, the prince of Dubai or the prince of, princes of the Duchess of York or some shit. She saw her on live and she wants to live exactly like that. She wants everything. You have to be a prince. You have to already be in the line of the king in order to marry me or to have the apple of my eye. Like, this is the shit that these women gotta. This is the world that they have to do. This is their world. I mean, they're literally following Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle probably. I don't follow Meghan Markle because I don't give a shit about fucking, you know, every fucking body like that. Like, I mean, I'm old school. I typically follow my friends. I got a few people, man, that I obviously don't know. I mean, but the thing is I don't really engage with them like that because I don't know them. And the thing is that again, you got you got you got young high school women following fucking Meghan Markle. It's like, how can you compete with that as a little? You're 16. You work at the fucking neighborhood pizzeria part time. You barely making $200 a week, maybe a little bit more. If you get some extra tips or something. These women, they're making thousands and thousands of dollars from desperate men on married fans. You can't. Their expectations is is on a stratosphere. They wanna they wanna get with the next up and coming rapper. They want they want the local young rapper, SoundCloud rapper that's up and coming in their neighborhood. That's in their high school or or that's a dropout in college. You know, that's who they want. He got some bling bling because he hit a couple he hit a couple dips, and you know he does credit card, debit card fraud, and you know he makes a few ends every now and again, and he, got a whole bunch of, jewelry, chains, and he got an apartment. This is this is what these younger, like, I swear to God, this is what these dudes got to deal with. Like no lie, like, I mean, it's crazy competitive for these high school, guys, man. Like, they don't have any choice. Like, if you gotta compete with that, you gotta compete with, you know, women being able to have access to the whole fucking world. What the fuck how the fuck can you compete with that shit? That's crazy. Like, so, I mean, to a certain extent, like, I do strongly, you know, have to point out the obvious as well. Like, I mean, these guys, man, I mean, shit, I'll be honest, it's really not the environment even that I'm used to. Like, I'm coming up in the 90s. Like, I mean, it wasn't, women weren't so uptight in the 90s. They just weren't. I swear to God. I promise to God. Women were not fucking uptight. They were nicer. I mean, the music, I think, probably had something to do with it. You had, a lot of basically the R&B, the love wasn't drained out of the R&B, right? Or, you know, it, like, literally R&B started to go toxic. Literally, if you notice, everything is toxic. All of the songs are toxic as fuck. Like, not to say you didn't have some toxic R&B artists like, Bobby Brown, or, others. Even, you can even say, you could put, uh you know whatever, but my memory, uh I basically forgot. But um to do this song, "You're a very kinky girl," the one that, something like, I forgot, dude. Now I gotta try to, I gotta try to just do a little search, because Super Freak, that's the song. um the dude that said cocaine is a hell of a drug. uh uh shit. Rick James. I don't know why that took me so long, but basically, um yeah, you got dudes, man, that, basically, we're kind of toxic, uh but you still had an element of love still in those songs and whatnot. But women weren't so uptight, and it just, wasn't hard to get. It wasn't Women weren't talking about, uh 4B, and they weren't talking about people. Women weren't calling other women pick me's, and uh women weren't, trying to, stop other women from dealing with men. It wasn't even no push for women to, uh tell other women to date white men. Like, none of those shits, like, none of that existed. Like, in a sense of, like, that was some, like, it was no movement, because with the internet, what you got certain behaviors, that what the internet, social media influences people, how it influence people. Basically, because of social media, what you have is group synchronization. basically in women, they do it without even noticing. Basically, they start talking alike, sounding alike, dressing alike, looking alike through basically group synchronization. Like you not even knowing it, like you being, it's like almost being in a hive full of bees. You start buzzing the same way that all the other bees are buzzing, and it's like basically social media harnesses that, and I'm sure it's certain like things that are going on as far as like some kind of like conspiratories type tinfoil hat stuff that goes on with social media too, but I'm not gonna go into there. But the thing is that basically, people are just kind of being influenced on a group level because of social media, primarily as the driver. Okay. So basically you have a situation where I ain't had to deal with all of that shit coming up. I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't have to worry about social media synchronization, group synchronization. I didn't even go to college yet to fucking, learn anything about no group synchronization or group think or anything like that. I didn't even know anything about that yet. Like I haven't even been at college at this point. Well, actually, I was like a freshman in college, like like 1999, 98. But the thing is that I haven't, yeah, I haven't, I wasn't a junior in college, or, I just starting, Um, but the thing is that I didn't have to deal with all of that. I mean, I didn't, and everybody else didn't. Like, it was just women were only influenced by their peer group and their friends, and that was just pretty much it. Not to say that's not enough, but that or it is enough, but like that was who they're influenced by: their mom, their aunts, their grandma, they peer group, their friends. That was it. Like it wasn't. It's not to mention movie, TV, books, radio, magazines, right? Like that was it. Like it was all of the influence that women were gonna be influenced by. Whatever their surroundings is, environment, peer group, that was how they were gonna be. Like now, I mean, because of so primarily social media and just the whole world that we live in today, I mean, like, man, I didn't have to deal with all of that. Women were not really strongly influenced like that. It wasn't no group synchronity or anything like that. And um other than, maybe in the lunchroom every now and again, or after school or before school. I mean, like that was, and you weren't synchronizing with the whole world. You were synchronizing with the chicks you went to high school with. Like that was it. Like it just now, because of all of this, man, it's just a totally different experience from like it was just a lot easier. Like you just go up to a chick, get her number, what I'm saying, talk to her, go on a date. Man, you probably smash on the first date. That's how it was. Like now, chicks talking about they don't even want to give you their number. They want to give you an Instagram. I mean, that shit, it wasn't no Instagram to get in 1999, you know? I mean, like, it just it wasn't the world. Even in 2000 and like 5 or yeah, like it still wasn't no Instagram. I mean, it was like just barely what MySpace and I don't even know if MySpace, well, Facebook, I think it was out, but it was still new. Um I think Black Planet and MySpace was like the latest and greatest or whatever. But I mean, it wasn't no influence like that. Like it was just a bunch of pages. I guess it was a little bit more of an influence because you could talk to strangers from other parts of the country. You can probably get their number. I mean, it started, social media started to, basically, start to form into what it is now. But, the thing is that, man, it ain't nothing like it was. Nothing like it is now. Like, even just how women act before the internet, before social media, um, totally different. Totally different. Not it's like that social media, it's like it turned them into a bunch of like just just a totally different form of a person. And then obviously men too. Like, obviously it's a totally different, you want to be with these women, but these women are trying to, they're trying to be Meghan Markle and Beyonce. They're following Beyonce. They're in the beehive. Like, you can't, they're looking for their next $1 billion um up and coming rapper to buy them a Birkin in an island. I mean, like, it just, you just, man, you can't. It's very, very much, the competition level is just, I just can't. It's just intergalactic. I mean, you might as well be. I mean, it's crazy. I don't even know how these dudes are able to even do what they're able to do, because I mean, it's just like, the influence level is just crazy. Like, imagine you just, okay. I really, to be honest, I ain't never seen Michael Jordan, my favorite basketball player of all time. A lot of other people's. I've seen him play basketball like in the nosebleed seats. That was the only time I ever saw him. I mean, I just ain't really had money like that. My parents didn't really have they didn't have extra money to buy, tickets at the Bulls game. They just didn't even. I mean, my mom wasn't even into basketball. One, my dad really wasn't like that. He wasn't into no American sports like that. I mean, he liked them, but you know, he wasn't into them like that, and he wasn't spending no money on no stuff like that. So yeah, I was able to see him. That was like, back in when I was in a group home. Actually, I mean, the tickets were like, I guess, donated to the group home. That was it. That was how I was able to see Michael Jordan. I mean, my whole point, you probably already know. I'm kind of explaining, how hard it was to actually see people, right? I'm still on that, right? And I'm just explaining to you how hard it was to actually see people. I had to actually be in a group home to see Michael Jordan look like a GI Joe character, a GI Joe doll, shooting the ball over the Detroit Pistons to, get into, the playoffs. Like, and then after even that, all of that, I've never seen them. I've never seen them besides, you know, now, right? Now, here's the thing. How how can you see him? Oh, follow him on Instagram. That's it. you don't you don't have to go spend no money to get no game tickets. You just follow him on fucking Instagram. The next time he goes live, you can see, no, he just uploaded a story of him actually doing something two seconds ago. 2 minutes ago, you actually saw what he just did to. This is, I mean, insane. I mean, like, compared to just looking at it from a perspective of from the past to the future, it's just crazy. Like, cause I mean, this is the world that these youngsters are. These Z's, very young Z's. This is their world. This is what they were born into, and this is what they have to compete with. Like a person believing that they can access anybody in the world, and then also not even believing that they can't. They actually can, and then them intertwining their world into their peer group, and thus having this vast peer group. You are basing your decisions, you are being influenced by your peer group, and your peer group is rich 30-year-olds, that live across, the continental United States, and you're in high school, and it's like, it's, I mean, these men can't, convince these women otherwise. They can't, hypnotize them or anything to, think correctly, but this is the world that they have to compete with. And it's very, very, very competitive. I mean, I don't even know if competitive is even the word. Crazy is probably even more accurate than competitive. But um, I just, I wanted to explain, as far as like how, I mean, how these incels were created, and why they exist. And this is pretty, you know it's never been done before. Like, this is, all new. This is all a byproduct of basically socialization, society, biology. I mean, like, all of this is, like, just a byproduct of, I mean, women being able to basically choose their own mates, to be honest. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's that. And it's like, it's no genie putting the bottle back in the, genie going back in the bottle. I understand all of that, but I mean, that literally shape shifted, the society that we have, which is a society full, which is a lot of incels, a lot more than should be, in their counterparts or whatever. But this is that, you know. So I leave you with that one. Like, share, and subscribe.